guys! Welcome to another episode of Gems, the podcast where you get all the tools you need for your epic glow up. Relax, whip up a delicious treat, and let's talk. So, what do you do in your free time? Have any hobbies? Got any interesting skills outside of work? If you're not satisfied with your answers to these questions, then you may be in the right place or the right podcast. We all want to be that one guy that has a side hustle that started from his passion project, or that guy that doesn't seem to get bored at all doing this and that. Or maybe you just have that desire to be a more interesting person. Whatever it may be, starting something new can be overwhelming. And I know that for some of you, the harder that you look for that new hobby, the harder it is to find one. Man, it's kind of like modern dating, I guess. So today we're going to talk about the 4 easy steps to starting a new hobby. Now, how do you find that fulfilling hobby? You need to understand these 4 things. 1. Make the search an enjoyable journey. Just like with everything else, it won't be sustainable if you don't enjoy it. Think of a place that you want to go to and imagine that your unknown hobby is that place. And your hobby search is you preparing and figuring out how to get to that dream destination. These are some definitions of journey which I picked up from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. The first one says, something suggesting travel or passage from one place to another. The second one is an act or an instance of traveling from one place to another. It takes time to get from point A to point B, and it takes time to get from you right now to you with a new hobby. It can take days or maybe even months, but as long as you do what you need to do, keep pressing on that gas, keep pedaling, keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep sitting, waiting, and keeping an eye on the signs until the driver takes you to your destination. You are going to reach your destination as long as you move forward. 2. Look at your surroundings. If you need inspiration, look to the people around you. What are their hobbies? What are they doing in their free time? Pay attention. I didn't realize until my search that my loved ones have such interesting hobbies. I know someone who collects wine. I know someone who loves sake tasting. I know someone building a price tag collection from different brands. I also know someone making tamari, which are Japanese embroidered balls. Somebody else does nail art and has a huge following on Instagram. Another person does landscape photography. My brother also does photography. I know someone doing 3D printing. I know someone doing programming. Someone else in my life is a calligraphy master. And there are a few people who love skating. You can easily look up a list of hobbies online, but nothing makes a hobby come to life more than seeing someone doing it or even hearing them sharing about it with you. Watching and hearing, even joining your loved ones in their hobbies is a fun and economical way to look into new hobbies. And if you find some that you like from them, list them down. Then ask yourself these questions. Do I want to try this for myself? Do I want to develop the same skills they have? Why? So my new hobby that I picked up a little over a year ago is coffee. Anything and everything about coffee. I love going to new cafes, artisan or commercial cafes, and trying out their new coffee. I read up and do research on different coffee beans, anything related to the craft of creating a good cup of coffee. I actually found this hobby thanks to one of my friends and my cousins. Shout out to my friend Mark and the Dams family. My cousin and his family love tasting and collecting top shelf wine and liquor. My friend Mark is a certified sake sommelier, meaning that he has the certificate to prove that he is a sake expert. And I am not big into alcohol, but I love the way they talk about it. I still remember the day my cousin's wife taught me the proper way to drink wine. Or the day I found out I like nigori sake. Both of these times I thought to myself, man, wouldn't it be great if I could talk about a drink I love so much with that much knowledge, enthusiasm, and confidence as I was drinking coffee? And then it hit me. Once I realized it was time to move on to the next step. Now, even if you haven't picked up any interesting hobbies from those around you, you can still move on to the next step, which is 3. Carefully considering your options, aka the consideration phase. Let's talk about marketing just for a second. We're not going to go deep into it, I just want you to get the gist of it. For those of you who aren't in marketing, I'd like to introduce you to a very simplified version of the marketing funnel. This is how brands look at what stage a consumer is in their purchasing journey. There are a few parts of the marketing funnel we're going to look at. The first one is awareness, which is at the very top and the very widest part of the funnel. Below that, you have the consideration phase. And then below the consideration phase, you have the conversion phase. And then at the very bottom, which is the smallest part of the funnel, is your loyalty phase. A consumer becomes aware of a brand, and if they're interested enough in their product, they may move on to the consideration phase. This is the phase where they do the most research about the product of interest. We're done talking about marketing now, but I want you to look at your journey to finding a new hobby in these phases. In the awareness phase, gather all the hobbies that you were interested in a list. Don't think about it too deeply. Just get to know the basics. In the consideration phase, you get all the nitty-gritty details through your research, and then you price match. You know that kid that gets this crazy idea all of a sudden to try something new? Like wanting to learn how to ski, but they live in Florida. Or wanting to start a lemonade stand without considering the fact that it's fall and it's gonna get chilly soon. Yeah, well, we're adults now and we're not going to act impulsive like children anymore. But seriously, you'd save a lot of time, money, and energy if you consider these questions before trying out your hobby of interest. 1. Money. Do I have to make expensive purchases when starting out this hobby? If so, do I have the resources to buy it? Can I get them cheaper or secondhand if I don't have the budget for it? 2. Space. Do I have a place at home to practice this hobby? Is there a place outside my home that's easily accessible to practice this hobby? If not, will that cause a problem? 3. Time. What time of day do I plan to do this hobby? Is it going to take up a lot of time? 4. Energy. Will this hobby demand a lot of mental power, or is it something I can turn my brain off while doing? Am I physically able to put in the minimal amount of energy and mental power this hobby requires? Am I interested enough to put in the minimal amount of energy and mental power this hobby requires? Will the long-term outcomes outweigh the amount of sacrifice that I have to put into this hobby? These may seem like a lot of questions, but I personally believe you'll have a way clearer understanding of which hobbies will actually stick and which ones will flop. I've been wanting to get into pottery for the longest time, but as much as I want to try it out, I have reflected that I do not have the time, the funds, the space, nor the energy to get into it right now. Am I interested in it? Very much so. Now that you've got your pick of hobbies from your consideration phase, it's time to be sold into your hobby. 4. Try it out. The conversion phase. Once you get into this stage, it should be smooth sailing from here. There's nothing else to say really other than to try it out. Don't like it? Then try the other ones in your list. But if you find out that you liked doing it, take it out for another spin 2, 3, 4, or maybe even 5 times. And after your 6th date, it should be safe to call it your hobby. At this point, you have moved on to your loyalty phase. All that's left to do is be consistent. That's it. Now, again, please only move forward with it if you really like that activity. It's not sustainable if you don't, okay? But for now, that is all. I know I've left you with a lot of questions to answer and things to do. So instead of giving you a question for the week, I urge you to listen to this episode again and take notes on where you need to. It doesn't have to be this week, but when you decide you want to start your hobby search. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Gems. Stay tuned for next week's episode, and remember, glow up and don't forget to be a better you. See ya!